Good evening, future techies. My name is Ryne Kerchner. I'm the Associate Director of Recruitment here for the Polytechnic Institute at Purdue University. And I want to welcome you to our School of Engineering Technology broadcast to give you some further insight and details about the department that you're admitted to here at the Polytechnic. I'm joined by a few department representatives that are going to introduce themselves here in a minute. But I first want to go through a couple of logistical aspects for this broadcast. You have the opportunity to interact with us through the YouTube live chat. So we have some topics that we're going to cover, but we also want to know what you want to know, questions that you have. So log in with your Google account and put those questions into that YouTube live chat. We also have a couple of students who are currently SOET majors here in the Polytechnic who are going to be responding to those questions as well. But we'll see some of those questions that pop up a lot. We'll bring those out to the panelists to respond to as well. You can also send us an email to our Tech Recruit email address. That's techrecruit@purdue.edu. We'll check that out as well. And if we can't get to those questions tonight, we will certainly be able to respond to those emails that you send in to us as well. So again, send in those questions. We want to know what you want to know, what you're thinking about, what you're wondering about. And so we'll respond to those as best we can tonight as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and have our panelists introduce themselves, and we'll go ahead and start with Brittany.
All right, good evening. My name is Brittany Newell, and I'm an assistant professor in the School of Engineering Technology, particularly on the mechanical side. I teach our freshman introductory course, which is ENGT 180, Engineering Technology Foundations, along with an upper level applied thermodynamics course for the mechanical side of things. And I'm a research faculty as well, and I do research in sensors and actuators and additive technologies.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Brittany. And next up is Grant.
Hello, my name is Grant Richards. I am an assistant professor of practice in School of Engineering Technology. I teach a number of courses in our automation and our manufacturing areas. You would find me teaching a course in Introduction to Industrial Controls. I also teach courses in systems integration, industrial communication systems, and a lot of project courses revolving around how you use automation in manufacturing contexts.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Grant. And next up is Lindsay.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Haugland. I'm a senior academic advisor in the School of Engineering Technology. I advise students from when they are pre-freshmen, from before they start at Purdue, all the way through graduation. I advise all the different majors in the School of Engineering Technology, and I love to get to know my students and see them grow and develop throughout their 4 years at Purdue.
All right, great. Thanks, Lindsay. Actually, I'm going to stick with you as we start this broadcast and these topics. You mentioned the pre-freshmen that you start working with them before they even start classes here. And that's usually part of our STAR program, Summer Transition Advising Registration, which is now going virtual. So could you kind of walk us through how virtual STAR is going to work for our students in this department?
Absolutely. So once you have accepted your offer of admission at Purdue, you can go and start your virtual STAR. It is a series of PowerPoints that you work your way through, like a mini course, things that you would have learned when you were on campus for your STAR day. You'll fill out lots of forms as well to let us get to know you. What kind of classes did you take in high school? What do you want to do when you graduate? What area are you particularly interested in? What should we, as your advisor, know about you? After that happens, then you're going to be contacted, or we're going to set up meetings, and each advisor will do it differently with one of the 5 advisors. Each student gets assigned to a particular advisor. We have 5 advisors, and that advisor will begin the process of getting to know you and helping you select courses. Then the student will submit a pre-registration course request to the university, and then in July we'll actually get a schedule.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, it's good that you'll have that still have that interaction, here on campus.
Absolutely. Everybody, all the advisors will set up meetings, whether it's through Zoom or WebEx or Teams so that we can talk to our students wherever they are. Absolutely.
Right.
We're as excited about getting to know you as you are to be coming to Purdue. Yeah.
All right, great, thank you. And I'm going to turn to our faculty members now and kind of ask a kind of a general, a very broad question that I get a lot when I'm talking to prospective students, even admitted students as well, is what's kind of the educational approach that engineering technology takes that's a little bit different than our College of Engineering here on campus. What's the educational approach that engineering technology takes with our coursework and our concepts? And Brittany, we'll start with you.
All right, that's a great question. I would say the biggest difference is we're really focused on hands-on learning. So you'll find that there are significantly more lab courses and interactive team-based project assignments within our course materials. So we're very focused on the applications. So how are you going to use these techniques and things that you've learned in the real world? And we try to introduce that at the very beginning and moving through your career at Purdue.
All right, thank you. And Grant, anything to add with that?
Uh, our courses really do try to take what is going on in industry and pull that in so that it is part of the learning experience. So we're not just focusing on simulation, we really are focusing on problems that you would encounter in the real world on day one when you'd go out and have a job.
Yeah, I think that industry ready experience is what we're trying to provide. That's good to know. So Brittany mentioned, and Grant will stick with you. Brittany mentioned a lot more lab experiences, and right now we're in an online setting. How does that work
Yes.
with the inability to be on campus? So what do those labs look like right now?
It is, I will say that it has been a transition for us. We are learning some new approaches for presenting material that we would normally present in a physical environment. The good news is that we've had a lot of wonderful constructive activity reaching out to technology providers. I've been working closely with R&D at Microsoft and companies like Rockwell Automation to bring technologies that will help bring some of that virtual experience closer to what you would get in the physical laboratory. And so we've been able to address the gap where we aren't always able to reach out and use a physical device. We can bring some very, very close simulation and activity in that is pretty comparable. So we've been able to bridge the gap in new ways, and we have a few new ways coming online shortly that we're pretty excited about. So, yes.
All right, that's good to hear that you're still trying to get that same type of experience, even though you're not with us here physically. And Brittany, anything to add for that with your courses you're teaching as well?
Not too much. All I would say is that it has been a transition, I would say, for the end of this semester, but we've learned a lot. And just like Grant was saying, there have been lots of sponsors that have reached out. Even for me, my textbook supplier was able to help with some of those more interactive experiences for my classes.
Yeah, that's really good. You're getting a lot of support outside of the university itself. And then for those who haven't seen, the viewers at home, and I'm sure everybody has by now, or hopefully will have, President Mitch Daniels, president of Purdue, announced last week that the goal for this fall semester is to have on-campus learning. So for those who can be on campus, especially domestic students, that's the plan. Is we're going to have our learning on campus in classrooms like we did in the past, but with some changes, certainly with the new situation that we're finding ourselves in, making sure everybody's safe and healthy. How, and Brittany, we'll stick with you for this one to start out with. What can you say, if anything, really kind of what you're expecting things to be different for our students in those physical experiences coming up?
I would say that's a question that's evolving. So as the pandemic changes and things change in the world, then we'll probably reiterate and come up with different solutions for this. I would expect that for the coming semester that there will be some changes in regards to social distancing and probably how we have large groups in a room right now. I would expect maybe we would have, smaller class sizes or bigger rooms to have larger gaps between students. And I expect that we'll have, more focus on in general hygiene and cleaning between each of those lectures and courses and labs. But I expect that it'll still be a great experience and very interactive for our students.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things is, yeah, we don't really know exactly how it's going to work. We have a task force that's coming up with those solutions right now for us, and we expect to hear some of those recommendations coming pretty soon. No timeline yet, just but I know that's what they're focused on. Grant, anything that you've been hearing or expecting changes for your fall semester?
Very similar to what Brittany has said. There are some chances for us to look at some new technologies as well. Well, we might not be able to entirely access $1,000 pieces of equipment. There are some lower cost alternatives that we can work on disseminating and getting out into the hands of students, perhaps in cases where there are some challenges with getting access to some of our facilities due to spaces. But as we've said, it's an evolving situation, and so we're planning for multiple possibilities, and we're hoping for the best of all situations.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, that task force I think is going to be really helpful in obviously determining what that looks like for us for the fall. And then just in general, and Grant, will stick with you. How in a normal situation, how would the coursework? You know, we talk about labs. How are the labs kind of supported with any other types of coursework, lectures, things along those lines as well?
Typically, with most of the courses in the school, you will find that the lab and the lecture are integrated, so that as you are having a theoretical presentation in a lecture environment, you are also experiencing a lab that is going to demonstrate that concept in a more concrete environment. So typically, those as you progress through the program, you're going to see that lecture and lab parallel each other and support each other. So you are getting both perspectives. You are getting the theoretical perspective, and then you are getting a chance to practice and use that theory in the same time frame and see how what kind of results it produces and how that impacts what you are learning. And so lectures and labs are highly correlated for most of our courses in the program.
Okay, great. And Brittany, anything to add in addition to that?
No, I don't think so. I think Grant pretty much covered it.
All right, very good. So Lindsay, let's go back to you and kind of go into a little bit more about majors, plans of study, things along those lines. And I think Brittany mentioned a course, Engineering Technology 180, I think is what she mentioned. Are there other courses that are shared amongst all the majors within the department? Oh, Lindsay, I think you're still muted, actually.
Sorry.
There it is.
Um, that's a great question. Most of our students will take very similar classes the first semester. And the great thing about this is that in high school, sometimes you don't have you haven't had the chance to experience all the different majors or all the different ranges of possibilities. And having a fairly similar first semester allows students to take, um, to not lose any time. If they start in one major and switch over, all the classes will then count, or maybe all but one to the next major. Everybody's going to take Engineering Technology 180, but there's a lab that went along with this. And did Brittany talk about this? I cut out. I lost. Did you talk about 181? Okay. 181 is a great class that our students will take. And in Engineering Technology 181, it's a 1 credit hour lab. It's called Engineering Technology Applications. And students spend 1 week in an electrical lab, then the next week in a mechanical lab, then they're back in the electrical lab, and then in the mechanical lab. And they get a chance to really experience both sides of things, so they can see what types of problems really speak to them. And then in the last 4 weeks of the semester, they're going to all be working on an interdisciplinary project. So those are two classes everybody takes. Everybody is going to take a Tech 120, a design thinking class that every student in all of the Polytechnic will take. They might take a writing class or a communication class, a math class, and then maybe a class that's specific to their major. Lots of students will take a programming class their first semester, so you get a chance to learn how to program computers if you haven't had a chance, or if you've done that before, to get better at it. It just depends on what major you're admitted to, what you think you want to do. The advisor will talk to you and say, try to get at what you're interested in. And sometimes students will say to me, I was admitted to electrical, but I'm kind of interested in mechanical too. And we'll try to pick out classes so that maybe we'll push off an English or a comm for a semester so that they can take classes to both, to help them pick which one seems like a better fit for them. And then in the second semester, students will be taking definitely a class or two in their specific major, as well as English and comm, more math, and some other classes to get some requirements out of the way. But one of our goals is to work with each student and make sure they're in a major that's a good fit for them. And a lot of students haven't had any, exposure, say, to electronics, and find out that they really like it, or that they want to do supply chain, that they really like talking to people and they want to help them interact with technology. And a lot of these experiences they won't know, or you won't know as a student, until you come and start taking some classes and figuring out what are my gifts and what do I want to do. And there's a big wide option. And we try to, as advisors, we try to help you get there.
All right, that's good to know. And then you mentioned math courses. What are the requirements for math within this department, or the majors that you have?
Okay. So if you're in electrical, engineering technology, computer engineering technology, mechanical engineering technology, robotics, mechatronics, automation, and systems integration technology, those majors all will require applied calculus 1, applied calculus 2, and statistics. In industrial engineering technology and supply chain and sales engineering technology, you will have one math class, maybe either pre-calc or applied calculus 1, and then a statistics class. Sometimes students say, well, I had calculus in high school, I'm taking the AP test. What does that mean? And that's great. That's part of the conversation that a student and an advisor will have, so that if you have credit for a class coming in, we don't want you to repeat it. And so we'll work with you to take the next class in the sequence. But because so many of our majors have very similar math requirements, then it makes it easy to switch. Then occasionally we have students who, for whatever reason, maybe because their senior year was disrupted by the pandemic, their background isn't quite enough to start in applied calculus. So every student, unless they, depending on their SAT, ACT scores, will take a placement exam to see, are they calculus ready or aren't they? And we have students who go on to very successful academic and professional careers who end up having to start in pre-calculus. But again, we try to talk about this in June to see, sometimes you can prepare over the summer and get ready and still start in calculus. But we try to meet the student where they're at and try to progress you through as you need to.
All right, that's good to hear that. Yeah, you get that support throughout their entire time, and really get to know them beforehand, and what they're ready to do when they get to
Right.
campus.
Yeah, so we want students who have AP credit for calculus 1 to start in calculus 2. We want students who aren't quite ready for calculus to start in a class that they can be successful in. Because what we really want is a successful first semester, first year, where you're very engaged with all of your all of your subjects, and doing well in all of them.
Gotcha. All right. And Brittany, I'm going to turn back to you. You mentioned that you are involved in some research here with us. And what kind of research opportunities are you involved in, and what could our undergraduate students get involved in as well?
That's a great question. There are lots of options for that. So in our department, we have numerous research active faculty, and we all have research labs and also collaborative environments where we work with other faculty members. So I mentor graduate students along with undergraduates. I can tell you in my lab in particular, I usually have, let's say, 3 to 4 undergraduate students in my lab every semester, and generally in the summer as well. There's opportunities to work in that format, or there's slightly longer opportunities that are available through Purdue. So they have summer undergraduate research programs, and then also research programs that work throughout the year, where you apply to a research program, say what you're interested in, and then faculty review those applications and then select to try to create a match. And then you also have an interactive like seminar session where you hear about research and you do a poster presentation at the end. And those run during the semester and also in the summer sessions. So there's more formal and informal methods for it.
Okay, very cool. And then research certainly would be a different experience than like a senior capstone. And is that something that's required for our students in this department as well?
So there's a senior capstone or capstone-like experience that we do require, at least for the engineering technology types, and I'm sure Lindsay can talk about that further. They do differ. So I do mentor senior capstone teams, and generally those are very industry-related experiences, and they're team-based, and they usually take, depending on the project and the industry partner's needs, it's usually interdisciplinary. So you might have electrical engineering technology students and mechanical, manufacturing, all on the same team together to create a solution. But you're directly interacting with an industry mentor and a professor at Purdue to create this solution. Whereas in research, some of our research projects, I have industry research projects along with government funded research projects. So they kind of vary in their outputs as far as more real world or more like basic science and understanding projects. But they're faculty led, and they're usually more about understanding like in deep depth a problem and a bigger picture. Whereas industry, you're targeted towards an industry need and a problem that they're having, maybe on the manufacturing line, and you're trying to solve this exact problem that they have. So they do differ.
Okay, and then Lindsay, we're going to add a little bit more to that and kind of how it's worked into the plan of study as well for our students.
Yeah, so for all the majors except for all the majors, they have are required to take two semesters of Capstone. In mechanical engineering technology, you can take 2 separate classes that are related to areas that you're interested in, but everybody else will take a class called ENGT 480 and 481. And so just like you start off your career in with these multidisciplinary teams, you're going to be back with these multidisciplinary teams working over an entire school year, or sometimes it's spring, fall, but two back-to-back semesters on a big project. And the sponsors of these projects are from all over the country. So as an advisor, I like to hear from my students where their projects are. They might be out in California. They might be going out to California to install their projects, or, to see what is needed. But this really does give them a chance to, like Brittany said, interact with industry mentors and really solve a problem that hasn't been solved before. And most of the students really, really like it, and really value the experience. It's a really valuable experience for most of them.
All right. Lindsay, I want to stick with you. And actually, since we don't have a specific faculty within our supply chain major, what are could you maybe speak to some of our hands-on experiences within that major?
Sure.
That's there.
So supply chain and sales engineering technology will have will have a backbone, a framework of some technical classes. So they're going to take different classes that are more technical, but then within their major, they're going to um, be working with, like, say, SAP software. Now, I think everybody with the pandemic has seen how essential it is that people who are experts on supply chain know how to get things moving from wherever it is and to where it needs to go. And it's not only being able to use the software, it's having the communication skills to know where those links are and where they break down and how to go around them. So our students will take classes, and so they'll understand the business side, but they're going to also understand project management. They're going to also understand how to work the software and how to really interact with those systems. In addition, they're going to take quality engineering. So a lot of what supply chain is, there might be a chance that only 95% of the product makes it somewhere, and they're going to be experts in that as well. So they're going to be working in hands-on labs, working with the software, working on real life problems, working to help everybody in situations like we're in now, where the supply chain is breaking down. We can all see how these skills are so essential.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. We've been getting a decent number of questions, just kind of, again, going back to what we talked about early on, just with the focus that we have in our majors on the hands-on experiences. And we had one specific question: what's the difference between mechanical engineering technology and mechanical engineering? Brittany, do you want to maybe speak to that and just kind of in more to that major, and then just kind of in generalities about how our majors are focused on that hands-on experience?
Sure, I definitely can from the mechanical side of the house. In mechanical engineering, and there's a lot of similarities between mechanical engineering technology and mechanical engineering. I would say the biggest difference is in mechanical engineering, you're more focused on the physics behind things and the theoretical calculations. So, how do you derive this equation to reach this solution? And those are great foundations to have. In the mechanical engineering technology side of the house, we're still focused on understanding those fundamentals, but we're more focused on how do we actually apply that to, for example, reach an industrial solution or a need that they have. So, for example, in the class that I teach, so applied thermodynamics, we do learn, the first and second law of thermodynamics and heat transfer and things like that. But a big portion of the course is actually in how do we use those concepts in things like heat pumps, refrigeration systems, engines, and analyzing IC, internal combustion engines, diesel engines, things like that. So it's more of the application environment.
Okay, great, thank you very much. And then Grant, from your side of the house, your kind of your perspective on that as well, the hands-on approach.
Very, very similar to what Brittany has described. As we would look at a problem, once again, we are going to look at problems of today that industry are having, and we are looking at how we take theory and, out of all of the possible solutions, find the one that's most appropriate for the context. And so context becomes really important to the problems that we explore, because there might be 5 possible ways to solve a problem, but that doesn't mean that all 5 of them are equally capable or have equal value. And so you start considering some of the context of the problem in more depth than you would perhaps in another program, and really look at where, out of all of these possible solutions, which one could be the best given whatever constraints or factors that you have. So.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And we're also been getting some good questions. This is one of our topics we were going to bring up anyway, about internships or work experiences that our students tend to get. And Lindsay, we'll start with you. Is there a requirement for an internship experience or professional work experience for engineering technology majors?
So all of the majors in the Purdue Polytechnic do have have a professional requirement. And so, yes, we do have a professional requirement. And one of the great ways to fulfill this is through an internship or through a co-op. Um, we realize that not everybody can get an internship or a co-op. They might have other responsibilities, or a student might have, reasons that they can't. And so, when in that situation, the industry sponsored senior design will count for the professional experience. And talking to students, it is very much a professional experience. For some students, it is the first time that they have ever been in a manufacturing facility. Depending on their major, they'll go on a site visit often, and really they're interacting with their colleagues not only on the Purdue campus and their mentor here on campus, but away at the industry site. I encourage students to get as much experience as they can. So, really try to get those internships or co-ops throughout your time at Purdue, because the more experiences you have working, the more chances you have to find that area that you're really passionate about, to find what really, really excites you in the direction you want to go in. Also, it's the more work experience, it's usually easier to find a job. But I have students who they get great jobs, and whether they use their work experience from their senior capstone from the industry, the 2 semester, or they've had a series of internships. My students are getting jobs. They're getting jobs in Indiana, they're getting jobs in California and in Texas, really all over the country, and are being well compensated for it.
And just as a follow-up, how would you say most of our students find out about those opportunities? Is it career fairs, company connections with faculty members? And we'll turn to the faculty members here in a minute, but stick with you, Lindsay, for that.
Yeah, so students find internships and full-time positions in lots of different ways. I've talked to students, and anytime they tell me they have a job or an internship, I ask them how they get it. Um, Sometimes after their freshman year, it might be something back home. It might be that they went to a career fair. Students will get contacted. One of my students who's from out of state just got contacted for an internship about 10 days ago through LinkedIn. So lots of students these days are telling me that LinkedIn is a really great way to find it. We also have lists within our department. And if a company contacts us and says, we're looking for industrial engineering technology students, would you, for an internship, would you please send it out? We will send it out to our list and encourage our students to apply. So there's no right way to find a job. There's no magic bullet. It's usually some combination of hard work, luck, and being in the right place at the right time. But and a lot of putting yourself out there, being willing to go up to people at companies and say, can you tell me what your company's about, and or developing relationships. But yeah.
All right, yeah, and I just want to point out, the Polytechnic has a college-wide career fair every February.
Yep.
So that's a great way to get connected with industry partners. I want to turn to our faculty members just to kind of see, well, what kind of faculty or what kind of industry use connections do you have? How do you maybe try to help your students in your classes get those experiences? And Brittany, we'll start with you.
Right, great. Yeah, there's lots of opportunities for that. A couple venues, I guess, that I would highlight is even through the research opportunities. So for example, 2 of the projects that are currently active in my research lab are actually tied to particularly undergraduate summer experiences. Some of those, one is with the Naval Surface Warfare Center, but they're internship experiences. And then some of the industrial partners that we've worked for as well, they're looking to hire graduate students and undergraduate students. And so they'll ask for those students, especially ones that they've already worked with, from research experiences. And also I came from industry before coming back to be a faculty member at Purdue. So I still have a lot of industrial linkages. And so I get emails fairly regularly asking me if I know any great students. And so I usually share those with my classes. And I know other faculty do as well. So those are definitely great opportunities along with the career fairs. Another thing I wanted to note is, like Lindsay was talking about, the senior capstones. I just got off of a call this morning where my capstone team gave their final presentation, and their industry mentor was promoting, talking to them again on LinkedIn, and saying that he would serve as a reference for them for any future jobs that they were applying for, and would definitely give them a shout out on LinkedIn and positive information for their future employers. And so I think those are wonderful connections as well.
Right, yeah, kind of like Lindsay mentioned, getting the emails from industry partners. That's great. And Grant, anything to add for that as well for yourself?
No, I agree with Brittany that we get contacted by industry a lot. We'll typically be contacted before they will put a posting for a job. The great thing about Purdue is it has a really, really strong alumni network, and that alumni network is really proud of the experience they had. And so they will reach back out to their faculty members and say, hey, this was a great program for me. I'm looking for others. And so we'll get a lot of an early look on job opportunities that are out there, and they'll ask us if we know of great students, if we could maybe let them know that this possibility exists. And so it's a very common occurrence. It happens all the time. I get multiple emails every week regarding this, and there are periods where it really goes strong. And so I think the alumni network definitely appreciates the value of their Purdue experience, and they always come back to Purdue and really give them a lot of attention when it comes to looking for people to fill the positions they have within their organizations.
All right, good. Yeah, it's good to hear that alumni are still connecting with us and reaching back out. That's awesome. And I'm not sure exactly who might be able to answer this. Maybe Grant, will start with you. For students who had a question from the chat, do you think engineering technology is a good fit for someone who enjoyed their Project Lead the Way coursework in high school?
I think that it is a great pathway. If Project Lead the Way was an enjoyable experience and had a lot of value, I think uh, moving into a program within engineering technology, you're going to find is very similar. And it's the approach and the linkage between theory and actual devices and real systems is very strong, and it's going to be very comparable. So I think it's a great pathway if you enjoyed Project Lead the Way.
And Lindsay, I'm going to follow up with you because I believe we accept some of those Project Lead the Way courses as credit here. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do, depending on how the student does. Again, this is something that we ask students during STAR or during virtual STAR. But yeah, depending on your major and depending which Project Lead the Way class you took, as long as you did well in it, so B's or higher in both semesters, you might find yourself with credit. One of the most common ones that I believe all the majors give credit for would be IED. And so Introduction to Engineering Design, which you do a lot of CAD work in, and that will count in for a required class for all the different majors. And then depending on the major, some of the other classes may or may not. Digital electronics may or may not. But what we find is that students who enjoyed their Project Lead the Way classes tend to really enjoy our approach as well. So it's really a good sign that if you liked it. Now, we do find that many high schools don't have it, and don't worry if you didn't take it. You're going to get everything you need at Purdue. But it's just, if you've taken it and you enjoyed it, it's a good, it can be indicative of that this will be a good fit for you. Absolutely.
That's great. And I was just gonna, there was a follow-up question. If a student didn't have any project lead the way or anything, would that affect their experience here? And it's like you read my mind. You touched on it before I even asked the question.
No, you'll be fine. The plan of study for all the different majors is designed to be completed in 8 semesters, even if you come in with 0 credit. So, as long as you keep at it and you put in the time and do well, you're going to be graduating in 8 semesters. So nothing to worry about whether you come in with 0 credit or a ton of credit. We will work with you to get you out in 4 years or 8 semesters.
All right, awesome. Thank you. And Lindsay, maybe you can follow up with this question we had from a chat. What are the labs like for the audio engineering technology degree program that we have?
Oh, that's a really good question. So, audio engineering technology is under the umbrella of electrical engineering technology. So, you're going to have a very strong electrical component. Um, and But on top of that, you're going to take a lot of theater classes. So these are going to be classes, for example, in learning to run soundboards and designing acoustical spaces and working on at a different show, running a soundboard. And in addition, the actual upper level um, electrical classes, you're going to be taking ones that have more of a audio or an acoustical bent. So a lot of work with digital and analog signal processing, a lot of work with um, things that will allow you to build and design and test sound systems to make them sound even better. So if you're one of those people who really likes music and you want to make it sound better and better and better, you're going to get a chance both on the application side where you're going to be running pre-existing equipment, which will be your theater classes, and then as well as designing filters and that will do this and that, and allow you to explore sound in that way as well.
All right, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I just want to give a shout out to Maddie and Aaliyah, who are our 2 moderators in the chat right now, responding to questions. John, our technical director, is telling me they're doing a fantastic job responding to your questions. So just a quick shout out to them. Thank you all very much for doing that. And then just as a follow-up, Lindsay, you mentioned just a couple minutes ago about trying to get our students out in 4 years. Obviously, that's the goal. But we also have the opportunity for a 3+2 program in
Right.
this department. Could you go into a little more detail about how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. In the 3+2 program, what will happen is that for students who are very strong students and are sure they want to get a master's degree, they have the opportunity to complete the bachelor's and the master's in a total of 5 years. And so, as part of this, 3 of their courses towards the end of their career will double count. So, you'll take 3 courses as, say, a second semester junior, a first semester senior, and a second semester senior. That will count both for your undergraduate degree and for your graduate degree, and it allows you to complete both of these degrees within 5 years. So it's really a 4.
Oh, I think we might have lost Lindsay there, so we'll hopefully come back to her when she is able to reconnect. But we did actually have a question I can turn to. I was going to turn to this next for our faculty members, and maybe you can kind of speak on this about academic support. How are faculty involved in supporting our students and their success if they may have some struggles with some concepts in courses? And Brittany, we'll start with you.
Yeah, definitely faculty members we want you to succeed. So we're happy to help you with any issues that you may be having with your courses or career here at Purdue. So we all have office hours throughout the week. And so that's definitely a time for you to come in and talk to us about any concepts that you're struggling with. There's also tutoring that's available. And the academic advisors have helped us facilitate some of those tutoring events. We're also very available via email as well. And I can tell you that, I mean, from my perspective, and especially with the freshman course, I'm generally helping with concepts in the course, and then also like decisions on what major you're interested in versus others, internships, professional development, things like that. But we all want you to succeed and to graduate in 4 years, so we're happy to help.
All right, Grant, same question for you.
Uh, I agree with Brittany entirely. One of the real strengths of the engineering technology programs are the accessibility of the faculty, and it's actually a point of pride within the faculty that we do make ourselves available to students, and we make every effort to be available for those questions, whether it be specific to courses or just mentoring in terms of general life questions and where should I go or what should I do. We really want students to find the best path for them, and we always hope that it's with us. Sometimes it's not, but that's part of our role is to make sure everybody finds the path that works for them. And so a lot of opportunity to interact with the faculty.
Yeah, that's great. That's always one piece of advice I give to students about our faculty members is, yeah, you're people too. You can't see it now, but Grant had a little gingerbread house that he was building with his kids, and that's, they're people. They're here for your success. They want to make sure you learn, so get to know them. And then one thing I want to point out about the Polytechnic in general is that we have a program called BEST that's building excellence for students in technology. So students who've done really well in courses will serve as academic mentors and support you, and they'll meet one-on-one with you to talk about things you may have questions on, maybe go a little bit more in depth outside of the classroom. So that's an opportunity for you to meet with those mentors one-on-one for free. So that's an opportunity that's really going to help you get that support you need. And then at Purdue, we also have the Academic Success Center, and they have supplemental instruction. They have sessions on study skills and how to time manage and prioritize, not procrastinate, those types of things as well. So between the faculty, our BEST program, and just overall programs at Purdue, you're going to have that support that you might need. And then I see we have Lindsay is back online. So Lindsay, want to maybe continue that conversation about the 3+2 program for us?
Yeah, sorry, computer problems here. I have 6 people at the house using the system, so sorry. So with the 3+2 program, it really helps if you identify to your advisor early that you're interested in doing this, and by early I don't mean your freshman year, but by sophomore year, so we can help you along that way. You will tell you when you need to go out and take your GREs, which is like your SATs, and help you to select courses that are going to be beneficial just for both for your undergrad and for your master's. And it's a really good opportunity, especially there are some jobs where you might go out into industry and there are 2 candidates, they're pretty similar, but one has a master's degree that can help with later promotions. And so it's just a great opportunity to further your experience, maybe do a big project with a faculty mentor, and we help you figure out that path if it's something you're interested in.
All right, great. Thank you for following up on that. Appreciate it.
Sorry about the technical problems.
No, that happens. I'm sure some other people over there watching have experienced that themselves. One thing I do want to bring up is kind of outside of the classroom experiences, student organizations that our students can get involved in. And Grant, we'll start with you. Maybe share a little bit about some organizations that are related to our engineering technology programs that we have.
So we have a variety of organizations that are available, and that's one of the great aspects of going to Purdue is the breadth of opportunities, either organizations that are specific to the discipline that you're interested in, but also just organizations that do a variety of cultural activities, a variety of things that you might not have on your radar, but you can go take a I guess a trial run of ballroom dancing or a parachute parachuting or equestria. There are myriad organizations at Purdue that you can go. Specifically within engineering technology, we have organizations that represent all of the the major professional groups that you would find within each domain. So we have IEEE, we have um, uh, I'm sure I'm missing several. SME, we have, depending on the particular domain, there is a presence at Purdue, and it is available. And so that's one of the great opportunities of going to something, a campus as large as Purdue is. The opportunities to try new things are endless.
Great. And then Brittany, anything to add with that? And from your side of the mechanical engineering technology area that we can hear about?
I would just echo what Grant said. So there are numerous organizations that can help with your future career, right? So those that are actually tied to engineering technology, for example, our AMET group. There's also a 3D printing club. You can be involved in more like university board type things. For example, the mortar board group helps with the agenda every year that gets released, along with some of these more extracurricular activities that you can do as well. Like Grant was saying, running, swimming, skydiving. So it's a great opportunity and a time to get to meet people through clubs. And I think it also helps with your professional career, because if you're in one of these clubs, you can be, the secretary, vice president, president of these associations. And that also gives you some leadership experience while you're getting to know different people and trying out new activities at Purdue.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys talked about both the more fun social things as well as the things that are related to your field. That's my recommendation typically to students is find something that's related to your academic studies, that's professional potentially, in boosting that experience, as well as the more fun things that can just get you out of your comfort zone potentially. One club I always hear about and like to talk about is the Pet a Puppy Club. So you just pet some puppies, or the Disney Appreciation Club. You just watch Disney related movies or shows and just hang out and talk about them. Like that's the kind of stuff that exists at Purdue. I think we have about 1,000 clubs and organizations. And if there isn't one somehow in that 1,000 that doesn't match up with what you're looking to do, find some students, find an advisor, and you can start your own club. So that's a great way to get that leadership experience as well beyond what already exists here on campus. Just want to then follow up with Lindsay about, we talked about a little bit more about, majors and things along those lines. Do you hear a lot about or work with a lot of students who do double majors, either within the Polytechnic or with something else at Purdue, or minors, certificate programs, things along those lines?
Sure. So I would say we have some students who are double majoring both within the Polytechnic and with another major. That is a lot of requirements, and it sometimes limits the amount of choice you have. So if you're double majoring, every single class is pretty much for one or the other, and there isn't as many choices. We also get a lot of people who do something like the entrepreneurship certificate, or which is really easy to incorporate into all the different majors that we have. So if you want to form your own business someday and you want to learn how to do write a business plan, come up with an idea, the entrepreneurship certificate is great. If you're interested in an area and you don't want to do like an extra, 15 classes in that area, for a double major, there's an opportunity to do a minor. And so I have lots of students doing minors in things that are both, liberal arts, 5 classes in one liberal arts, or maybe 5 classes in computer information technology, and of those a couple will count towards the major. A lot of MET students or robotics or mechatronics will get the electrical engineering technology minor because it's only a couple extra classes, and there's a lot of value in it because there's so much to do with electronics. But with minors, there's no right answer. It's really a way to get more experience either in something that's really interesting for you professionally or even just personally. So the range of minors is really kind of incredible of what my students have. Sometimes they'll say, I want to do a minor in, something to do with the environment. And we research which of the, 5 different minors will be most beneficial to their specific interests. Sometimes we have students who, instead of wanting to dive deep with their electives, they just want to go broad. They want to take one class in political science. They want to take one class in, Spanish, and they don't want to just focus. They figure they have the rest of their life to focus. And so there's no right answer. Minors aren't required. And so when students want to be more of generalists, that's okay too. You have to sort of figure out your own path. And, there's no right answer, but we're here to help you figure out if you are interested in a minor, and that it is possible to incorporate lots and lots of minors in.
All right, great, thank you. And then we did have a question, I'll just respond to this myself, about the calculus and statistics courses like English and communications being offered outside of the Polytechnic, and that is accurate. So the math courses would be offered by the math department, same with English and comm, things along those lines. We do have integrated courses that are integrated with humanities as part of the plan of study with the Polytechnic, but that's kind of how that is broken down for just the university in general. Then actually just a quick question, Lindsay, you might have a good answer for this. The average class size for classes in SOET for us?
So labs are going to be the smallest, and the labs will be anywhere from 8 to 18 people, depending on what lab it is. Lectures will be generally under 100, but generally might go up to 120. As you progress along and you get more specialized, the lecture size will tend to go down, and then it will go back up for senior capstone, because you're back with all your friends that you might not have seen since freshman year, but in that case you're in groups of 5 or 6. So even though the lecture is big, you're working with a very small group on your project. So students definitely have the opportunity to know their professors and to meet each other. And students often say, can I take this class this semester because my friend is in it and I want to take another class with that friend. We see if we can work it out. But yeah, so it's a little bit of both.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Just one other question. We kind of talked about internship experiences, professional experiences, and Grant, we'll start with you. What are some examples of companies or career titles, and companies and career titles that you see graduates going into once they're done with their program?
Actually, it's a very wide range, just given the fact that we interact with so many companies and our graduates go all over the US and even global in their pursuits. We find that we have graduates in a range of positions. We'll have graduates that'll start out and maybe will, if I look at just specifically to the manufacturing, they'll start out as a entry-level design engineer, or they'll be a field applications engineer, or they'll go into sales. It's a common place. We might find that they go out and they produce something different. We have students that go into, ultimately into law school, or they go into med schools, things that you wouldn't necessarily think that would be the pathways going through engineering technology. But we find that the possibilities of where you can go are incredibly broad, and the companies are all recognizable. I'll just to give you some conversations. The strongest interest I've had lately for students are coming from companies you would think would be necessarily focusing on manufacturing students. And these are recognizable companies like Microsoft and Amazon and Google. And you would think those would be more of a computer science type of a career path. So the opportunities, it's really hard to describe because it's so unique, and there's so many unique pathways you can take when you go through the school. I I mean, I have been teaching for a while, probably longer than I care to admit, and I have students that are in executive vice president positions of Fortune 500 companies. So I guess that probably the best answer is there is no one answer. There are lots of options available.
Oh, that's really good to hear that the wide range and the opportunities just put in that work and get those experiences and you can really go far. Executive vice presidents, so that's pretty amazing. Brittany, same question for you and from your area.
Yes, I agree with Grant. There's lots of options and opportunities afterwards. And a lot of times when students ask me this question, I tell them that this major really teaches you how to solve problems. And it's your choice what problems you actually solve, right? So where you end up heading after that point. I can say from the mechanical side, so it's a little skewed, but I see students going to companies like John Deere, Caterpillar, Fiat Chrysler, Ford, places like that, along with others like Rockwell and things like that. So the variety is huge. Another thing that I see a lot is our students innovate. And so I've also seen a lot of our graduates become entrepreneurs and in turn business people. There's also a big technical sales component that I see as well. And in design, modeling positions, technologists, engineers, quality engineers, operations. And so it's all over the place. But this major definitely prepares you for a career to solve problems.
All right, that's great. And then Lindsay, since you work with all of our students across all of our majors, do you have any more to add for that?
Yeah, I mean, really, I agree that the range is very wide, from really hardcore engineering to some of the big companies with the management rotation programs. Those are really popular. um, and I see just such a range of opportunities that our students take, and it's really hard to predict what any one student is going to do and how they're going to find the job. But I will say that they're finding good jobs on a whole wide range, whether it's consulting or engineering or business. Or I was in the Indy airport a year ago, and I ran into a student who had graduated, I would say about 18 months earlier. And I asked him what he was up to, and he's like Brittany said, he's like, "Oh yeah, I have my own company. I'm flying to LA. I'm meeting with clients, and I'm flying to Boston. I'm meeting with clients there." And by the end of the conversation, I was so tired I couldn't, but he was doing great, and that happens, absolutely.
All right, that's awesome. So last the question I'm going to bring to the group, and Lindsay, we'll start with you. What is one piece of advice that you have for students coming into this department to help them be successful?
Be organized. Go to all your classes, turn in all your assignments, but don't forget to make friends and have fun.
All right, that's no, that makes a lot of sense. Brittany, your advice that you would have for students?
I would say to own this experience. This is the path that you're choosing. So it's your responsibility to make the most of it. And the other thing that I would say is, and I think Ryne, you said this before, but don't be afraid to come to office hours and talk to your faculty, mentors, and your professors. We are people too. And so don't let that be a barrier to your success.
All right, awesome. Yeah. So if you take one thing from tonight, go talk to your faculty members. All right. And then Grant, your piece of advice for our students.
Yes, ditto, talk to your faculty members, but also your classmates are your support network and your resource that you can use. It's very hard to get through college without working with classmates. And really, there are going to be times when they're going to help fill in blanks that you can't. And then there will be times where you get to return the favor, but it is one of the great opportunities of being on a campus and being able to team up with classmates and being in a cohort as you go through, that you really get to kind of use all of your strengths to help each of you when you need it. And That's really what my most successful students do, is they know when a good time to work with other students, and they know where they need to brush up, and they take those opportunities.
All right, great. Thank you all for those suggestions. And Lindsay, one last quick question, going back to the virtual star. When will students start to hear more about when they can get into that that portal for those modules and go through those things, and then about their appointments as well? Just a quick reiteration of that.
Yeah. My advice is to finish high school first. Get through high school, pay your deposit, but get through high school. Don't shortchange anything here. The way pre-registration works is that everybody has an equal chance at a good schedule, so you don't have to. It's not first come, best schedule. So you have some time. If you start working on it and once you're done with your high school classes, that should be fine. Absolutely. But we be sure when you've made your decision to go ahead and let Purdue know, put down your deposit, put down your housing deposit, and then you'll start working with My Purdue and the different modules to get you ready for the fall.
Well, and then I'll add my own piece of advice right now is check your Purdue email address once you have that established. Check it
Absolutely.
regularly, check it often, because that's where a lot of that communication will start coming to once you have that deposit in and once you've established that career account. Yeah, definitely check your Purdue email at least once a day, at the very least, for sure. All right. Well, I just want to thank everybody at home for joining us for this broadcast and submitting questions through the chat. I also want to thank our awesome panelists for their insight and their experiences within this department here in engineering technology with the Polytechnic. You can watch this broadcast again if there was something you maybe missed, or you want to just review it and watch some with somebody else as well. Go to polytechnic.purdue.edu/live, and you'll see this broadcast as well as all the other broadcasts that we've done so far through this semester, as well as the past couple of years. We've done this for a few years now. So take a look and hear from other students that have been through the Polytechnic as well. Again, if you didn't get a question answered that you really want to know some more information about, send us an email, techrecruit@purdue.edu, and we'll respond to that as soon as we can. And if you go to our main page, polytechnic.purdue.edu, you will see an admitted students link, and that will take you to a landing page with tons of resources, downloadable resources, videos that you can watch, connections to our social media. You can request a phone call from one of our staff members as well. We're trying to get as connected to you as we possibly can in this current situation. So please reach out to us. Let us know how we can help, and we'll hopefully hear from you soon and hopefully be connected and be part of this Purdue community in the near future. So once again, I want to thank you all very much for joining us, and thank you again to our panelists. And I'll end with Boiler Up.